Hello and welcome back, everybody. This is Scootsy16 with the Windy City Thunderbolts and the Super Mega Legend League. In today's episode, we are going through the off season. Last season, we did not do very well. Our team tanked pretty hard towards the end there. Second worst team in the league, and we had the worst run differential in the league. So we went through our decisions on who we wanted to re-sign, and we have a few open spots. Both our catcher positions need to be replaced. We need a backup outfielder, another starting pitcher, and a reliever. Now, I went ahead and scouted some free agents ahead of time to see who I'd be interested in looking into. And we might actually make a few other replacements to the team as we go. So I have been dreading this episode because I think that this is not going to be as entertainment. I don't know. I hope that you all enjoy what I'm about to do here. I tinker a lot, so I hope that I can fit this all into one hour episode. But this might be a two-parter depending on how things go. I hope that's not the case, but we shall see. By the way, Baller Wildly, great name, great name there. But I went ahead and started some players. I went and found some players that are younger that I might be interested in. I looked for players that have traits that I really like, players that I might be interested in replacing existing players with. So lots of things that we'll be looking at. But I have a few targets in particular that I'm interested in. I've started more players than I'm actually interested in bringing in. So some options, A, B, C, D at certain spots. In addition to the empty spaces on the roster right now, a couple of things that I'd consider doing. I would consider replacing Elroy Action with an alternative infielder, only because we're paying him a lot to be a backup right now, and Willie Randolph is our primary starting second baseman. So, like to have the contact and speed, but we might have to go a different route here as another infielder. I would consider replacing Kara Pickles at shortstop for a better offensive option, but I'm not tied to that, and I'm okay if we don't bring her in. We could look to upgrade first base in place of Justin Morneau. I know he's young. I know we want to develop him, but he had such an awful season that I'm concerned about his career going forward. If you saw him, then you'll know the only reason I'd ever replace Beefcake McStevens is because Juice Jackson is available. So he's out there, and I will consider signing him depending on if we get him at the right price. Um, I would also look to replace Track Statsman. You'll see who I recognize that I'd be interested in bringing in, but again, it would just depend on if we get him at the right price. I'm looking to completely overhaul this entire pitching staff, so I'm okay if no one returns from this staff, but we shall see. And then this is the only place where I'm comfortable right now is the bullpen and just replacing Felix Farmhand. So we'll see how things go. First thing that I want to do before I do anything else is I'm going to sort all the players by their current valuation. For anyone not familiar, anytime a player goes into the free agent pool, they always start at an absurd asking price. You can see on the left-hand side what they're asking for. And then where I'm at is the difference between what they're asking for and their current value. And that's where the valuation comes into play. So I want to try and find players as close to zero or negative numbers, meaning that they're asking for a number below what they currently are valued at. So if we sort by the opposite of asking valuation, we can see that there are some players that are out here that I would look to consider that are currently asking for less than what they're worth. The only player I think I'd consider signing right now is Philip Parmigiano, who has utility, power versus lefties, good arm, decent fielding, and has solid contact. But he can play all of the positions except for catcher. So that's why I'd be interested in bringing him in. And then Grady Santiago here has a good arm, but nothing else. And I believe that's everybody that's within that realm of like reasonable asking price. So if I were to bring in Philip Parmigiano right now, who is disciplined, to replace Elroy action. I don't think that's the route I want to go right now because I have an idea for who I want to bring in instead of Elroy. So I'm going to go ahead and pass on Philip. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start simulating through the few rounds. I am actually just going to skip straight ahead to round 10 because that's when things start to get interesting. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at who's getting signed here. These are usually just those really cheap players that have been out there. So one of those was Rick Burleson, Vic Beasley there. And then there's Philip Parmigiano who got signed that first round as well. Going to round 2, Grady Santiago is the only other guy we had starred there. Round 4 or round 3, nothing happens. Round 4, nothing happens. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and we're going to skip round 10 here. Okay, so now let's take a look. So we head over here and taking a look at some of the players that I'm interested in. We're going to sort by the valuation and see who's that far negative that we might be interested in bringing in. Tarek Smith is a guy that I was thinking of replacing Hiro Masano with as a cheap option. I think he can get a little bit cheaper, so I'm still going to hold off on signing him right now. Rally Overo, I starred him because he has Rally Stopper. I'm not going to pay this much for a reliever. I usually try to find cheaper relievers with good traits like this. So Giselle Rounds is a player that we can get cheaper because she's only a C, but I would sign her in place of Felix Farmhand. But I think we can still get better, and there's a couple of relief pitchers that I'm really interested in moving forward here. Rylan Frank, actually, this is a player that I'm interested in because of that cannon arm. But instead of going this route, now that we kind of sorted through all the asking values, I'm actually going to sort by overall and position. So this guy right here, Guy Ramirez. This is a guy I'd have to sign this round if I want him. I think he's going to go. Interesting. He's 24. I like this guy a lot, but I just don't want to spend that much on a catcher that's only going to be playing about 2/3 or less of our games. So I'm going to hold off on him. I'm actually eyeballing both Tiny DeGrande here, who has good arm, good power, has that rally starter which would be plus 50 contact with no one on. And when we're trailing, that would just make him a really great offensive weapon, and he's only 26. So I'll wait for him to be available. And then Rylan Frank here with cannon arm would be my backup. Casey Calhoun is kind of like an emergency backup option who has good fielding and arm, and he would only be used as a defensive backup catcher. But we go down here. Another player I'm interested in is Mash Taters. I can go a little bit farther, I think, before I consider signing him. But if I go this route, I'm going to replace Mash Taters with, or replace Justin Morneau with Mash Taters. So I'm going to pay up for a quality first baseman who's also a really good fielder and has good arm too. So that's where I'm looking to upgrade at first. Now to replace what's his name? Elroy Action. He's a young guy, but to replace Elroy Action, I'm looking at Pepe Vinicio, who could be a little bit better in contact, but would have bad ball hitter, would have good speed and good fielding, and a pretty poor arm. But this would be our backup second baseman at 23. I think he's a guy we can develop a little bit, and we might be heading in the direction of maxing out our crafty traits instead of our disciplined. I went disciplined and spirited just because those two were the ones that I was getting the players for. All right, Juice Jackson. This is make or break time for this guy. I won't be able to sim another round, so this is the price I have to pay if I want him. That's plus 0.9 million over. That power and contact. We lose some speed here. We get off speed hitter and we get stimulated. Another reason I was thinking about going that other route, and that would be plus 1.8 million that we'd be paying over what we're paying Beefcake right now. I really wanted to see if we could just kind of center around Beefcake McStevens and David Ortiz, but this is just such a fascinating pickup. Uh, and Beefcake at 28, we'd be getting 5 years younger. I'm here for the entertainment factor, so I'm going to go ahead and replace Beefcake McStevens with Juice Jackson, and we're going to just hope for the best here. Goodbye, Beefcake. We love you. There it went. I went and made the decision to commit to it. All right. So going forward, so Pepe is a guy we're going to look out for when he gets closer to his asking price. I started Kira here, but that was like as a backup only emergency option. As we keep going down, at shortstop, there was really nobody that came up as a consideration instead of Carrot or like to replace Carrot Pickles except for Ham Slamus. I don't know if this is the route I want to go. They are the same age. Ham is a better hitter for sure, but a worse fielder and slower. He has no traits, so I think I'd stick with Carrot Pickles here. But we'll look again in a little bit when Ham gets down to his asking price, which I think he can. Round 10 is when I just go ahead and sign the players that are the supreme players that we might be taking. By the way, I'm gonna see if Stockhouse or Stockton Brickhouse can drop a little bit in price, and if I can get him around the same price as David Ortiz, this might be another shake-up pick that I make to get a little bit of younger and to sign this option who would be more of that new the new DH for us here. So it'll be an interesting decision to make, but I haven't pulled the trigger yet. Angelica Ryu, I'm not going after. I started her because I was interested. Tori could be our backup outfielder, but I like George Bell a little bit better here. So we'll come back to that. And right, Johnny Bags and Hera O'Wugliams are available. Now, because the catching options are not very intriguing, I am actually considering signing Hera O'Wugliams here, and I could go cheaper than Tiny DeGrande at catcher, and then just kind of do a three-way platoon where Hera stays in at catcher as much as possible, plays some right, and Trek Statsman can stay on the team as well, or stay on the team and play right when Hera is catching. So might go that route, but I think she can get a little bit cheaper. So I'm going to wait a couple of rounds there. Marlon Bird, another backup option I considered. Okay, here's the other one that I wanted to sign. Lachlan McMackey. Guy's 22 years old. Almost maxed out accuracy, has super high junk and velocity, 4 pitches, rally stopper, has choker, but since I'll plan to be maxed out in the spirited traits, that means that even at worst, he's losing -6 to all of his skills when it's a high pressure or extreme pressure situation. -6 when he could get +20 to all of his stats when we're in a rally stopper situation, and he's 22. This is the type of guy that you build your team around. I am interested in bringing in Lachlan McMackey to replace our current ace starter, Rick Ruschel, who was not much of an ace for us. This is a tough decision to make because this is another really expensive purchase that I'm planning to make, and we still have some other team members to still sign, but I don't want to miss an opportunity for this. And Rick Ruschel, where he didn't pitch very well last year, he only has 3 pitches as a starter. I feel like we can do better than that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make this decision, and I'm going to bring in Lachlan McMackey as our ace to the team. So we just made 2 huge decisions. We brought in our new centerpiece, cornerstone offensive weapon and Juice Jackson. We also brought in a brand new ace pitcher in Lachlan McMackey as our starter. So I usually don't completely go this route, but what other way than learning and trying and experimenting? So here we go. With that being said, there's not another like high tier player here that I'm interested in signing. So I am going to continue to sim up until I get to the 14th round, which is where we'll be able to get right to about everyone's valuation. So I sim this round, and I'm sure we're going to see a couple of those other players I was eyeing are going to go. Rally Overo goes. So we actually had a couple players that I didn't think we would still have another round with um, that are still available. Bob Feller's a really interesting option as a cornerstone piece as well, and he is a lot cheaper. Ooh, don't make me make this decision. His accuracy is so much lower, but he does get what will be a maxed out clutch pitch or trait. I just think that as a starter, clutch is not nearly as beneficial as rally stopper is. There's also Lane Fitzpatrick was another guy I was interested in. We kind of got an embarrassment of riches for how many people that are available. By the way, I'm gonna star Beefcake just to keep an eye on him for later too. Um, I don't think there was anybody else that I really wanted to sign right now, so we're gonna go ahead and sim again. And here's where Guy Ramirez goes. That's who I was thinking we wouldn't have another chance to sign. He goes for 12.5. Bob Feller gets signed 13.3. That could be the difference maker for our entire franchise, but I went with the big name. I went with the big flashy signing. I'm going to do one more round to negotiate here, and then we're going to start signing. There goes Stockton Brickhouse. Some other big names here. There goes Lane Fitzpatrick, who was another one we were looking at. There goes Johnny Bags. Stitch Gripkowski, I'm not really worried about losing out on. Let's see who else. Yeah, these are the big rounds. Sheesh. Kira Nutmeg is gone. I'm okay with that. Angelica Ryu, I was okay with that as well. So now, if we hop over here, you will see that most players are right at their asking. So outside of Rick Ruschel and Beefcake, who we just dropped, everyone else is 0.2 above or lower than that. Most of them are well lower. So, in order to make some decisions here, Hiro Masano we can replace with Tarek Smith, who is a cheap replacement, 20 years old, and has 4 pitches, has solid accuracy, and has good velocity. That junk is pretty, leaving a lot to be desired, but he does have an elite 4-seam, which we would then bring in to replace, or we will hopefully get that scholarly up. So we're going to bring him in. At the very least, it's a placeholder decision that we can put in here, and we will decide from there where to go next. All right. Next. Giselle Rounds. So she is cheaper than we were expecting her to be, right? And oh yeah, we're making some decisions now. So I'm gonna bring in Giselle right now, but I think that she's gonna end up getting replaced eventually. Look at how many of our discipline traits we're gonna do. By the way, the tinkering I mentioned earlier, it comes in once I start filling out the roster, and once we get to this part where we're starting to see those players getting signed. So we're bringing in Rylan Frank, who's going to be, I think he's going to be our primary backup catcher. So we're signing him for 4.4, I believe it was. Puts us at 22.7. I'd like to aim. I usually aim for about 10 million in surplus, but with both Juice and Lachlan McMackey, I don't know if we're going to be able to afford that. Here's a big decision. We're going to be replacing Elroy Action with Pepe Vinicio. and Pepe can play second and third, and this will give us a backup option. I'd like to have another, like, another. I guess we have Prince Chavez who can now play all infield positions as well, so that's not a bad one. But this frees up funds. We really need to work on getting some spirited players brought in. But don't worry about that because I'm pretty sure I'll be able to make that work. Our other, see, Casey is that like defensive option, and that would kind of force our hand to get Raylan to be our primary catcher, and then I think we could even look to decrease. Okay, so I'm just gonna do it like this. So Tiny is 1 million less. If we sign him, he's competitive as well to replace Mango furthermore. Puts us at 19. We're getting real tight on funds here. I think we're still okay. I'm going to sign Tiny for now. Again, I'm fine if we end up replacing some of these players, and we are going to have to do some tinkering to get the... why do I keep doing this? I'm sorry, everyone. I'm just kind of bouncing all over the place. So I really want mashed taters, but now that I'm thinking about it, what do you think of the idea that instead, because I saw Stockton Brickhouse did get signed, if we bring in mashed taters in place of David Ortiz, we save 1.5 million. We lose just a little bit of power and some contact there, but upgrade everywhere else. We do lose that low pitch and clutch trait. Those hurt. But David Ortiz had such a terrible season, and mashed taters would be a really great young backup to have or to come in and then platoon. He can platoon because he can actually play defense, so we don't have to rely solely on Morneau at first. I just hate the idea of replacing David Ortiz. I think he still has some life left in him. If we do that, we're at 16, and we can sign about a $6 million player in to replace Riker to get us to 10 million. Ooh. All right, we'll come back to this one. I told you this is always a ugly time for me to go through all this. Wilbert, I don't really like him. Erica, no. All right, moving down. There's Beefcake still asking for more than he's worth. Ham Slamus would be cheaper than Cara Pickles. What is that? Down in discipline, up in competitive. I really don't see. Honestly, I think I'm gonna go get myself to the point where I'm maxing out the spirited, and then I'm either going to max out crafty and leave scholarly at the negative or at the lowest trait, or I might just do spirited and the other one's in the tier 2. That's what I'd like to aim for. I'm going to come back to this one as well. I don't know if this is a good idea to replace him. Plus, I kind of like having Cara Pickles. All right, George Bell. That's a spirited player who's 20. He's currently right at value. So if we sign Riker, or sign him to replace Riker, that would be... How do we look on the outfield? So Cash Basket can play all 3 positions. Prince, Tish, and Trek can all play all 3. I'll do that one for now. And then back to the outfielders. Torrey is more expensive than George Bell. Ricky Kwan is cheaper, but just pretty much the equivalent of Tish Ballin. Okay. Hera Owagliums. Another moment to make a decision here. Going with Track to replace Track with Hera Owogliums frees up a lot of free money, and that could be where we keep David Ortiz, we bring in Mash Taters instead of Justin Morneau, and we can even make some more room in our rotation and replace Giselle Rounds. There are two players that I want to see there. So we put Hera Owogliums in right. She can actually be one of our catching replacements, and I can even bring in that Casey Calhoun person instead of Tiny DeGrande and just do like a 3-player platoon. When Hera's catching, we can either put George, Prince, or Tish in right field. So there's or Cash. So all 4 of those other outfielders, and even Kara Pickles can go to right field if necessary. Okay, I am gonna do it. We get younger. We get a cannon arm, off speed hitter, be tier 2. Okay. Boy, what a really interesting way that this whole franchise has shifted since we in one season. I didn't expect all of this to end up playing out the way that it has, but it has been interesting. We could bring in Marlon Bird here and replace Tish Ballin. And the only reason I would do that is because of the drop in discipline players and we increase in our crafty players. So that's if we wanted to increase stimulated and stealer and bad ball and our specialist and potentially reverse specialist if we can max both of those out. I think we might be able to get Marlon Bird just a little bit cheaper than he currently is. He's right at his asking. So I'm going to give it I'm going to try risk a little bit there. Gail Norris. Gail. I want to try another round for her, but as a B 7.8, potentially 7.6. Replacing Tarek would be 12. That's too much. Instead of Coil would be 12, or was it 12.9? I don't think that's. I like that decision, but I think that's too expensive. And then we'd lose Workhorse, which, if we can develop Coil a little more, I think Workhorse can actually work in his favor. So I think Gale might end up being somebody we pass on. Although I would be interested in potentially considering an older option instead of Tarek Smith, just at his cost. Tarek is also disciplined, and if we can replace him with someone who is crafty or spirited, we'll look to do that. Okay. Back to our pitchers. So I also looked at both Jeff Facero, who's a long reliever, has 5 pitches, is 23, he's a lefty, has K collector, and pretty average stats all around for 6 million. That was really interesting to me. But then I saw Jensen Deputy, same price, has rally stopper and reverse splits. He's 2 years older, but he only has 3 pitches. But I think this is a player that can play above his talent because of those 2 skills. So that reverse splits would go against all lefty batters, which is not as ideal as I'd like it to be, but that we're debuffing those batters. And if we can max out Crafty, we can get him to -20 power, -30 contact, which is debilitating. So this was the player that I was interested in bringing in, and that would be who we would bring in to replace Giselle. And I'd rather pay this extra upgrade price for our bullpen. There's going to be a lot of tinkering I still have to do. Like I said, I was worried about this episode because I worry that you all are just going to get bored as hell of watching me try and figure this all out. but I promise the method to my madness. Well, I can't even promise that. It's possible that this is just the worst episode in the series so far. So we shall see. Um, so this is that other strategy that I was thinking. So we save some money by going with Casey Calhoun here instead of Tiny de Grande. We would still need to work on getting another uh, what do you call them? Competitive traits because I don't want that at the tier one level. But we have so many disciplined players we're going to have to work on potentially replacing and adjusting. So we go with Casey Calhoun with instead of Tiny de Grande. That means our primary catcher will be Raylan Frank, who's 35, and then Casey Calhoun is kind of our development option, or until we find a better alternative option next year in the draft. And then Harold Williams is going to be platooning at catcher as well. So Casey really should only come in during those like low cost emergency situations as a defensive catcher, and then it would just be alternating between Raylan as our starter and Hera Owoglium. So that's my vision. So we'll see how that plays out, but this saves us some extra money here. That means what I also want to do is I'm gonna pull the trigger on this one here, which is bringing in mashed taters in place of Justin Morneau, and this is what's going to cost us some extra money here. So now we're upgrading our offense. We're getting some solid defense still. We downgrade in speed, but neither of them are fast. And now we can kind of still keep our big defensive, um, or I mean, our offensive bat in David Ortiz. And now we got Mash Taters, Juice Jackson, David Ortiz as our three big boppers in the center of our lineup. That feels good to me. And I definitely wanted Morneau to develop, but I don't think that I'm going to see that really happening here. So we're just going to go ahead and fast track it a little bit. Okay. With that, we're still doing good on time on this recording, which makes me feel good. So what else did we want to do? Now that we have, who else do we need to replace here? So I think our bullpen is entirely complete. I don't want to touch anyone else in the bullpen unless I absolutely have to. But that's four defensive. Oh my gosh. Yeah, we might have to replace some of the bullpen here just because of all those discipline traits. We can replace Kara Pickles with Ham Slamus. That would be a 1.1 drop in our value and gives us another infield option here. Again, we increase in power. We're not really losing our contact slightly, but not much. We barely decrease in speed. We drop fielding significantly, and our arm is a little bit worse, but I still think that this is a decent trade-off. So we're bringing in a Ham Slamus, and while I wanted Kara Pickles to be another cornerstone player for us, this is kind of a chemistry decision. Can't wait to hear the feedback from all of you on what you think I'm doing here and what you think, like, what do you like or not like about this. We can also make the decision of replacing Tish Ballin with Marlon Byrd, who would be a right fielder by priority, and that means that we get the crafty instead of the disciplined. We still need to get two more spirited players. So here we get a little bit of an upgrade on offense, slight decrease to our speed and arm, but again, these are things I think I'm okay with. So bye Tish, hello Marlon. We paid 0.4 million more to get that. Okay, what else we got? I like to keep Prince if I can, especially since we're working up to getting both green and yellow traits maxed out. So we'll see there. Lachlan is definitely staying. Turok is a player that we can replace. Who could we consider? All right, let's see what we got here. Ooh, we could do Air Lovestone. Elite Fork, which we probably won't be really utilizing. Spirited player with Workhorse. How much is she? She's asking for what she's worth. I would also look at... No, never mind. That player's awful. I'm fine with an aging player that will likely end up being replaced eventually too. We're getting tight on our funds again. We're right at our surplus that I want us to be at. So if we do that, then that means we drop to tier 2 for everything except for tier 1 for scholarly, and that means that I would need to replace... Coil could go. That could be the one we replace Coil with Air. Could be replaced with Jared Weaver, but at that point, I just don't think that that's a good idea. Jester Chung has good... Oh, that's a 2 or 3 pitch. See, this is the part that gets really tough for me when I start to get into the nitty gritty of this. Ken Owens, 5 pitches, has good junk. This could be a developable piece. Same price as Coil, but has better velocity and junk, just less accuracy. But another pitch to work with. That would satisfy our crafty traits. And then the only other thing that I would want to worry about doing is I'd have to replace one of our... Oh, what a dagger this is. We'd have to replace one of our relief pitchers that we've been seeing develop really well with a spirited relief pitcher. So let's choose Mackenzie for now. If we went for just a spirited relief pitcher, let's do... Sorry, I'm trying to remember what's going to be my strategy for sorting this. Okay, so now, yeah, there we go. Okay. So we have 3 spirited long relievers. Joe Coleman is interesting to me. Actually, I have him in another franchise. He did really well in the playoffs, and he has K neglector, so he's actually worse than he is here. Let's see. Options to replace. We're not bringing in Don Guevara again. We already seen what that looks like. These scholarly traits really don't do anything. Avery Peck is too expensive and has 2 pitches. I don't want crossed up, especially with the max debuff to that. Bill Campbell could be an option and would be right around the same price. I think we dip below 9 or 10 million in... Sorry, I'm also checking closers, even though I don't like getting closers. Close to game. No. Okay. So I think my option that I'd be interested in bringing in would be Bill Campbell. I want to pay him less, though. I want to get him to the same cost as Mackenzie Perry. So what did I want to do? I want to replace Tarek Smith with Air Lovestone. Here she is. She's asking for exactly what she's worth right now. I want to get that down a little more. We also looked at Coil Marshall being replaced with... who did I want him to be replaced with? Oh my gosh. Ken Owens, right. And he's exact or 1.1 million minus what he's currently at. Okay. I'm playing with fire here a little bit, but I am going to go ahead and sim another round. This is another big round here. So somebody did sign Tiny DeGrande, so he's for sure gone. Marv Knockmore, who we had on our team previously. Digit Swingens was on our team previously. Let's see. Riker Baloney was another player that was on our team originally. There's Troy Percival's gone, who I was looking at. Let's see what else we got. Okay, and there's Canopy Muscles. Quick peek at the players that I was looking at. So that would be nothing on offense, right? Yeah, we're good on offense. Oh yeah. It was no, I can't sign her because it won't work with the I should sign or I should watch them, shouldn't I? And then see, who are you? You're disciplined. You're disciplined. What's with all these disciplined players? Bill Campbell was the guy I was interested in. Okay, I'm gonna sim another round. Please don't. I think Air Lovestone is the only one that I'd be worried about losing. Gale. Alon Clay was another one, but that was a disciplined player. Torrey Hunter is gone. He was a little more expensive than what I thought he was worth. Okay, I think I'm done playing with fire. So after I look through this, I think I'm going to go and get... Okay. I think we're at the point where we're ready to make the decisions we need to make. So the first one is Mackenzie is getting replaced with Bill Russell. Right? Is that who it was? Bill Russell? Bill Campbell. I still think he can get cheaper. I'm gonna mess with that one a little more, but I am gonna replace was it Tarek with Air Lovestone. There we go. Yeah, so we pay a little more for that one. That's fine with me. Now, Coyle Marshall, we were looking to replace with Ken Owens. I'm going to go... Actually, he's 20, so I think it makes sense for us to just pay for him now. And then what's the upgrade from... Or not upgrade, but the increased costs. Mackenzie Purry to Bill Campbell is 0.4 right now. He's 29 years old. There's really not a lot of draw to this guy. He's actually worse than she is. Oh, but I think it's only because of the traits. Yeah, we're losing those traits, which kind of sucks, but I'm fine with this. There's not another... Is there anybody that we could... If we keep Mackenzie Perry, the only other option would be to replace Prince. Because I'm not going to get rid of any of my other options that... So my options are replacing Prince Chavez with Hieronymus Jackson, who's older, has more power, worse contact, worse speed, slightly, or pretty much the same fielding and a worse arm. So this is a huge downgrade in every way. Or we can get Noodle Arm Miranda Lucero, who I'm not interested in, and she's older. Is there any other... There's Xavier Tedson, who's a right fielder. Neville Huen, who we saw play for one of the... I think it was the Mammo Tanks. Now, who's in left field? Yannick Dunlap. Oh, that's a shortstop. What am I looking at here? Oh, there we go. Aspen Liu. That's a good name, but not a good player. And then these are all backup options. Okay, so we're not getting rid of Prince Chavez. I think he produced really well last year too, so I'd hate to see him go. So Mackenzie Perry, you're just a product of unlucky options. because there's not even like a good Kendra Kerr equivalent out here, is there? No, we're already past the good players that we could have signed in her place. And the best spirited relief pitcher is Leo Poole. Unless we look at Klaus de Game, that's not a decision I'd like to replace Kendra Kerr with. Um, Ezra Dixon is not somebody I'd be interested in either. So no, we're not getting rid of Kendra. I only thought about that because of the cost and the fact that she has no traits, but Mackenzie, she's expendable. Peeking around. Jeff Facero is gone. That was a guy I liked. Okay, that's enough tinkering. You've seen enough of what I'm doing here, so we're gonna go ahead and go to Bill Campbell. 0.2 million more than Mackenzie Perry. We're gonna go down a little bit in overall, but he's actually the better pitcher outside of those traits. So you can see why I like to play strategy with the traits. But here we go. So we make this decision. We increase in our velocity and our junk. We lose one accuracy, and then we lose that specialist in the composed traits. But this is our team. I think this is it. This is not the best team I've ever put together, but I am definitely increasing the ceiling of this team by adding in. We now have our team consists of Mashed Taters, David Ortiz, we have Juice Jackson, we have Lachlan McMackey, we have Withers Hansen, and we have Kendra Kerr as like our best players on our team. I think this is a solid team. The traits say we could be much better, but we're pretty equivalent across the board. Let me just double check here. So we have them both alternating at first. Pretty much David Ortiz not playing first at all. We can put Casey Calhoun in at first if we really need to. And then we also have Prince Chavez who can play first if we need to. At second base, we have starter Willie Randolph. And we have backup Pepe Vinicio, and Ham Slamus can play second base in a pinch if we need to. At third, we have Juice Jackson as our primary starter. We can replace him with Pepe and then also Prince Chavez if necessary at third base. Those are emergency options. Ham Slamus starting shortstop. Juice Jackson is a backup shortstop. And then we just have the emergency option of Prince Chavez there as well. We have our starter, Cash Basket, who will pretty much primarily be starting against lefties. George Bell has zero fielding talent here, and he has wild thrower, but it will be at its lowest chance, so we shouldn't see that happen too often. He's developable at 20. So he, I think, can platoon pretty well with Cash Basket, who he's the better hitter, but she'll look better against lefties, where she gets plus 20 power and plus 20 contact. So that puts her at 72 and 50, or in 70. Prince is our primary starting catcher. I mean, center fielder. What was I talking about there? And to back him up, we have Cash Basket and we have Marlon Bird. So 3 options for center field. Then we have Harold Williams, our starting right fielder, who will actually kind of be our starting catcher in most instances. When she's catching, we have Marlon Bird, who's going to be playing right field, or Cash Basket, depending on the pitcher. We can have George Bell starting in left. Catcher is going to be a pretty fickle beast all year long, but I think that this isn't the worst scenario I've ever seen. This is another little experiment we had. Our starting rotation, Lachlan McMackey as our new ace at 22 years old. Love it. Cecil Sawyer, who we hope he improves from last year. He did not pitch very well, but we're going to hope that turns around. We have Air Lovestone, who doesn't bring much special to the table except for those 5 pitches, the workhorse trait, and that high accuracy. And then we have Ken Owens, who we're just hoping can develop at 20 years old with 5 pitches and a lot of junk. So he's going to be a weak spot, but I think our offense has enough to kind of overcome these two weaker pitchers that we have. Next, we have our bullpen, which is, I know the traits say it's contact. I think we're bullpen specialists here with Withers Hansen, who has maxed out specialists, which means that we're going to debuff 20 power and 30 contact for every left-handed batter that faces us. He's 24. He also has maxed out rally stopper, which is plus 20 to velocity junk and accuracy when there are two runners on base. Kendrick Kerr, just good all around pitcher, 4 pitches, pretty nice to see there. Queen Jimenez, who's somebody we still need to work on developing, but does have that maxed out rally stopper, gets ahead, which plus 12 on a 0-0 count, or a first pitch of the at bat. Jensen Deputy, excited about him. So he is also reverse splits as a righty, means that he's also debuffing those left-handed pitcher or batters. So really, lefties that we face are just going to be hurting. And then Bill Campbell literally just signed him to be a back-end bullpen player with a spirited trait. So hopefully he surprises us, but I'm not counting on much from him. This is just for the traits. If our team does not do well, again, we're not afraid to go and cut some cost here and there, and we'll make the decisions as necessary. But I'm pretty happy with this. I'm actually just going to go ahead and skip to the end of the offseason. Well, before I do that, I'll do one more quick look. Beefcake, I don't think we're bringing you back. Rick Ruschel, sorry, buddy, you're not coming back. Trek Statsman, I'm not bringing you back either. No to Elroy. Keith is an interesting option, but not for what we want. Yeah, I think I'm fine with where we're at right here. Alan Trammell would be a decent shortstop, but not going to work for what we put together. He's also 38. Okay. Sorry, everyone. I'm just doing my due diligence here. Preston Cannon, RBI hero. He's a little expensive, but that's an interesting lefty or outfielder to have because he is also a lefty. Okay. I think I am. Yeah, I think I'm good with where we're at. Okay. We're going to go ahead and do it. We're just going to sim the rest of the off season here and see what the team looks like. I'm going to put the first lineup together and we'll look at our first opponent to start season 2. We will be watching the opening day game of our team, which is going to be against the Buffalo Blowfish. So I know of a couple of fans that are Blowfish fans, so we'll see how we can match up against them. All right, so doing a quick peek at who was left over after skipping the off season. Andrew Jones is now out there. It does look like Beefcake got signed. Ricky Kwan is gone. And sorry, it's more out of curiosity than anything else. Mackenzie Perry left and went to the Overdogs, the Okinawa Overdogs. The Jacksonville Joey Riders brought in Justin Morneau. I thought that said Muhammad Ali for a second there. Okay, let's see. Kara Pickles went to the Moonstars. Just peeking around. I just want to see where Beefcake went. Okay. Oh my goodness, I didn't think this was going to take so long. I'm sorry, everyone. Oh my goodness. Trek Statsman went to the Pittsburgh Platypi. They're not in our division, but we'll probably see them a decent amount. There's Beefcake. Oh, he goes back to his original team. He also goes to the Pittsburgh Platypi. So they just picked up both Beefcake McStevens and they picked up Track Statsman. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and simulate these first few games to get to our game. And look at that. We're leading the division. How about that? What a great start to season 2. Every team that's in our division just lost. So we get fast tracked right to the top. All right. So what is our team going to look like? With the lineup put together, I want to see what it suggests for us first. It does put Hera at catcher, so I'm really excited to see that play out going forward. So we're going to be facing off against... let me see who the Buffalo Blowfish are going to have. Slip Vanderweek. And if we check out Slip is a lefty. So we're going to have Cash Basket leading off in left field. Juice Jackson. No, you're not going to be our number 3 hitter. Wow, this is such a crazy lineup. Hero Wugliams. We have Willie Randolph. I think Willie's going to lead off. Just slide Cash down 1 in the order. Juice Jackson starting at third. Mash Taters starting at first. David Ortiz in the DH spot. Hero Wugliams catching. She's going to be our primary catcher. I love this. Ham Slamus at short. Prince Chavez all the way down as our number 8 hitter now. And then we have... No. Not George Bell in right field. If anything, we can let me position swap Cash. So Cash in right field. I'm more than okay with that. George Bell in left with that terrible fielding scares me, but he's a good batter, and I think we can consider that liability okay, especially with the development opportunity available. So that is where we're going to. I'm going to give us our standard away uniforms for this first game. And this is where we're going to be leaving things. So here's your team to start season 2. Really excited to see what we can do with this roster. We have a team full of some really talented players, some really terrible players, and a little bit of everything in between. I'm happy that we got our chemistry exactly where I wanted it to be. With all these traits that we have here that I feel are important for us to take advantage of. And then we still have 11.3 in surplus, so we have a lot of opportunities for development here. And it looks like there's already some available, so we'll definitely be looking at getting some of those in the beginning of the next episode. Thank you all so much for sticking around. Please, 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 please give me feedback. What did you think of that off-season episode? Was that too long? Did I talk too much? Did I take too long to make decisions? I tried to prepare some beforehand, but a lot of it's reacting in the moment. So appreciate you if you stuck around this long. Let me know what you thought about it, and we'll see you all in our next episode. Bye, everyone.